Okay, the Nationals. Here we go. Somehow when I turned it, I think I turned it off by accident. Okay, sorry about that. We're going to redo
no picture
this.
on those.
Right, it shouldn't be. Yeah,
is it going now?
It's going now.
I can see my face, but not my whole face is in there, I think.
Okay.
There, yeah,
okay.
It's better.
Good, thanks.
Actually, it's even more.
Okay,
so we drove to the Nationals
yes.
with my mother and my brother. We took Tommy with us, and I was sort of surprised to be seated number one, but I was seated number one on the strength of my Southern Cal win. And I was very nervous about being number one. I played some little kid, I remember, in the first round, and he wasn't really very good, but he was a clay court player. And they sent us off, it rained, and so they were desperate to finish all the matches. And they sent us off to another complex to play. And there were clay courts there and there were cement courts there. All the clay courts were taken, and he refused to play me on cement. So I went back thinking they'd default him because he refused to play me. And they said, go back and play him on clay, which I can understand. Here's a guy.
He came what do you mean? Just wait till the clay court?
Yeah, wait till the clay court, because he'd come all the way up from Florida or somewhere to play in a clay court tournament, and you have to play the top-seeded player, and besides that, not to play on clay. Anyway, I beat him pretty easily. I played another guy, then a few rounds later, I think it was the third round, and his name was PK Champion Jr., I remember that. And I almost
lost. It's a good name.
I almost lost to him, and I was completely panicked. I had a very hard time adjusting to the clay because the bounces are different. You couldn't slide. I didn't know how to slide or anything like that. We never played on clay. I don't know if I said this before, but the only time I'd ever played on clay was Tommy took me to or his family took me to the Ginger Rogers court, which was in Malibu. And it wasn't really clay, it was gravel. It was nothing like clay. Do we want to stop for?
Keep going.
Anyway.
Oh, he needs us to stop. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I can't find my socks.
You can't find any socks?
No.
They're in the drawer in your room. Okay? In the drawer. You have to open the drawer.
Okay.
Okay.
So, is it on now?
Yeah.
So I was losing to PK Champion.
Make sure.
I was losing to PK Champion.
Okay.
And Tommy was playing next to me, and I looked over at Tommy in panic, and I said, Tommy, I'm losing. And Tommy looked back to me and very calmly said, so am I. I ended up winning. Tommy ended up losing. Of course, Tommy, I have to say, Tommy had a game. He was something like Federer. They called him the machine. He hit the balls as hard as he could. And if he was missing, he just hit it twice as hard. He never changed his game. He had so much confidence. And
so he lost in the third round.
He lost, I don't know what round it was. It was probably the second or third round.
And what was he seeded for this tournament?
I don't remember, probably around fourth or so.
Wow, so that must have been a really big upset for him.
Yeah, especially he'd won the Westerns.
Who did he lose to?
I remember the guy, I mentioned his name the other day, but he was it started with an R. Robinson was the guy's name, or Robbins or Robinson. And he hadn't beaten anybody. Robinson lost then to the guy from Mexico, Esteban Reyes.
Okay.
So anyway.
And Tommy hung around to play doubles with you.
Well, of course. Yeah. And he helped warm me up to the whole. We were very good friends. So I won that match, and then I had sort of not too hard a time until I got to the semifinals, or actually the quarterfinals. I was to play Max Brown, whom we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I can just remember that I was very scared of Max Brown. I was scared that he would lose his temper when he was playing. That should scare me. I don't know, but I was. He didn't lose his temper. He was very willing to lose to me, and I beat him very easily.
And at that point, you probably thought you were going to win the tournament.
Well, I always thought you thought you were going to win the tournament. You're afraid you were going to lose. But I think I mentioned this before. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I had my first autograph. It might have been my last too. A little girl came up and asked me for an autograph, and her name was Judy Artley. I still remember her. because, and maybe this is why I lost in that, I remember that she went with me when I mailed a letter. I had to mail a letter back home, I think, to Perry T. Jones, who sent us out. And she went with me and showed me this tree where if you kiss a girl under the tree, your wish will come true. Probably, I don't remember what my wish was. It should have been that I win the tournament. Probably it was that she let me kiss her. So I probably kissed her and didn't win the tournament. Anyway, I did see her. Actually, I dated her a few times when I was in college. She went to Michigan and we played up there. Very nice girl. And anyway, there I was in the semifinals. I didn't mention enough, or maybe at all, how hot it was there. It was just blistering hot. It was this humid heat. And later I'll tell you how it got to Jada in the finals. But when I played Green in the semifinals then, and he just mashed me. But it was so hot that I really think my only goal there was a little spot behind the umpire's chair where there was shade. And to get there first on the changeovers, that was the goal, and nothing else really mattered. It was so hot. I sort of, in years later, I always thought that I lost either because it was so hot and I couldn't cope with the humid heat, or because I hadn't played on clay and couldn't adjust the different shots you had to hit on clay. But I finally figured out, and I talked to Mike Green a few years ago on the phone, and I told him that I finally figured out why he beat me, and it wasn't the heat, and it wasn't the clay court, it was that he was better than I was, which was probably the best assessment. But anyway,
had you played him before that?
I had not played him. I played him in the Westerns.
Oh, in the Westerns.
But then I had the cotton. I always had a good excuse. I had the cotton up my nose, and I was not feeling too well anyway. But so I played him. I lost to him. Then he played Janta in the finals. And Janta, who was the only player that I knew at that time that came to net, came to net on his serve a lot. In fact, that's why I beat him so easily in the Southern Cal, because I just passed him all the time. But he won the first set from Green and had 5-4 in match point. And for the first time in the match, Green came to net. And Janta just missed a passing shot, barely hit it on the top of the tape. I can remember seeing that. And Tommy and I were watching him and rooting for Janta. We were all sort of friends at that time. And I think Janta maybe won 3 or 4 more points, and that was it in the whole match. He was just completely devastated, completely tired out, exhausted. And Green just marched through that and won the match from being down match point.
Were there a lot of people watching?
Oh, sure. Yeah. They had big bleachers in the Kalamazoo University there. It was a big tennis school.
When was this? Like July, August? I mean, you're saying it's hot.
Yeah, it was July, August. not sure which. It was right at that time. It wasn't September and it wasn't June.
And you're playing in the doubles, meanwhile.
We played in the doubles too, and we lost again to although this time, every time we lost to Bowden and Cranston, we figured it was because we were playing each other in the finals before and were tired out, or one of us was discouraged because one lost to the other. And this time was the first time we played, not having played a match before, and we lost again. So we had to concede that maybe they were better than we were, although we did beat them a few weeks later in a tournament in Santa Monica.
It sounds like Dale Jutta must have been a good doubles player.
He was a very good player.
But you don't hear about him getting to the finals, or what happened?
Well, he played with somebody else who wasn't very good. Really, what you really cared about was the singles and not the doubles. But if you didn't have the singles, you cared about the doubles. So that's about...
Did you get a big trophy for making the finals?
No, you get a little medal. A little silver medal that I still have. You can have it if you want. And all the big tournaments, the bigger the tournament, it seemed, the smaller the prize you got. And the little tournaments had big prizes. In fact, I remember for Santa Monica, not for the juniors, but for the grown-ups, they gave a radio. That was a big prize. And things like that they would give. sometimes practical prizes.
Did you get anything for getting to the semis in the singles?
No, there was just for finals prizes.
Uh-huh.
So that takes us through the year.
Through the nationals.
Through the nationals.
And then are there other tournaments after? Yeah.
Well, there are a few other tournaments. There was the Santa Monica. I won that, and then I lost in the national hard courts. And in the Southwest, that was rather interesting. I won the Pacific Southwest. I only lost about 4 or 5 games. In fact, I beat Roger Worksman, I think 1-1 or something, who was a year younger than I was, but later became a very good player, and also Robert Delgado, who was a very good player. I beat like 1-1 too. I beat everybody very easily in the Southwest until the finals. I was supposed to play Tommy in the finals, but unfortunately Tommy lost to Esteban Reyes, who I beat many times that year. And after my match, you played in the afternoon because you were in school. And after my match in the semifinals, the official came up to me and he said, "You could really do us a big favor. You don't have to do this, but you'd do us a big favor if you would play Esteban Reyes, who beat Tommy Freiberg, if you would play him this evening and you could play on the center court under lights there." And that would be a big thing to play on their set. They had a big center court with a huge stadium there. And I sort of thought about it, and I realized that I'd beaten Esteban Reyes easily, I think 4 or 5 times, never lost a set to him. And I was playing very well at the time. And I thought I would win easily. And the only way I would lose would be if I would play him at night, especially having just changed to wearing glasses, which I'd never worn before playing tennis. So I told him no, I would play him anytime. I'd play him tomorrow morning, but not that night. And then everything changed. Their attitude towards me changed, and the guy was real mad at me, sort of.
The tournament.
You could tell, yeah. I mean, he wasn't mad. He was mad, but he tried not to show it. He said, "Okay, well, we'll tell you when you." I said, "Oh, well, when will I play?" And he said, "Well, you call in the morning, and we'll tell you." So I called in the morning, and they said, "Well, we don't know yet. Call back." And I had to call back, and then they said, "Call the next morning." And they made me call throughout the week every day without telling me whether I'd won or lost or what was going to happen. And I mean, I wouldn't have lost, but I would have to play another time. And finally, somebody from school, an official, called them and told them, "You can't do that. Make them come every day." And so then they said, "You won." But they
by
didn't.
Default, but because
Reyes
Reyes
I won by default,
Uh-huh.
but I didn't. They
Because
didn't.
Reyes had to go back to Mexico?
Well, that's what they told me.
Uh-huh.
I assume that's what they told them. But I mean, I think part of it was that he didn't expect to win anyway, because I'd beaten him so many times. But maybe not. Who knows? But why is it so important that he come at the first day of school?
Yeah.
But anyway, the president would
Have you ever talked to him about it?
by sending him back over the border. But no, I never talked to him about that. In fact, I don't think I ever talked to him again.
So did you get a big trophy for winning the Pacific Southwest?
No, you just get a medal.
You just get a medal.
You can see those medals or have them if you want. They're up above my desk.
But they sort of took away your victorious moment of winning the Southwest.
And I lost very few games. But anyway, that was sort of the end of my really top tennis. I went on in the juniors. The first year, of course, it's hard because you've got people 2 years older than you that you're competing against.
Well, wait, let's make another file just for the 18 and unders. Anything more on the 15 and unders? What about doubles? Did you win the Pacific Southwest in doubles?
There was no doubles.
Oh, was it? Okay.
No.
And you said there was national hard courts?
There was a national hard courts before that. I lost to Tommy in that one, too.
In the finals?
In the semifinals.
Okay.
And John won that. So
the rankings
same
were
guys
fair. In all these tournaments.
Yeah, well, there were 3 or 4 guys that were better than everybody. And that's really the end of my 15 and under. And probably the end of my really good tennis, because then everybody started growing bigger serves, coming to net on their serves. And I had my occasional win in the juniors. I won tournaments around Los Angeles. I mean, they were good tournaments, but they weren't beating the top player. And I had a few wins. I think I told you I beat Franklin Johnson a couple times in the national hard courts in the quarterfinals. Or actually once I beat him in the national hard courts, but I beat him once in the Southwest. I beat Freiberg once in the Southwest. I beat Greg Grant, who then became the #1 player from Southern Cal in the juniors. and he was national interscholastic champion. But then he went to SC, and when our school played SC, I beat him in that, and I won the CIF. But really, I didn't play that well anymore, and I didn't do that much. But my record looked pretty good. I still had a pretty good record, and because of that, I also went up on the Northern Tour with Gordon and Dwight, and Tommy went, but I didn't do very well up there. For some reason, my coach at high school contacted somebody at Notre Dame, and they offered me a scholarship to Notre Dame. I wanted to get away from home very badly, and to be independent. I thought that was independence, and they offered me a full scholarship. That is room, board, tuition, books, laundry, everything. And
laundry?
They didn't want the laundry. It's expensive. I'm just telling you everything. Do they give you laundry usually when they give you room and board? I don't think so. But they did. I had tickets for laundry, and I earned a little money when I went to school. From ROTC paid you a small amount, and I worked in the library, and I thought I was very independent. My tennis in college, the caliber of tennis in the Midwest was way below the caliber in the West Coast because they didn't have indoor courts there, and so you didn't. I didn't mention that. Well, that's true. That was in the 18 and under that I played in the national indoors. I got to the semis, but quarters. I got to where I lost to Max Brown. Max Brown, incidentally, went to Notre Dame.
Yeah, and you roomed together, right?
I roomed together senior year. We played a little together. Max Brown was much better than I was by that time. In fact, Max Brown, through big fluke, first I should say that I was number 2 man my sophomore year to Max Brown, number 2 man my junior year to Max Brown. In my senior year, I was number 3 because another player had gotten on the team. And I played doubles with him, Don Ralph. He was much better than I was, as was Max Brown. We ended up, our junior year, we lost only one match. Our sophomore year, we lost very few matches, maybe 3 or 4. And our senior year, we were undefeated. We still had to beg the head of sports to be able to go. They weren't going to have us go to the nationals, which was the National Intercollegiate Championships, which was in Chicago at Northwestern University. But they finally let us go. But they weren't funding too much. And so I had to stay at the university. I couldn't go home and come back because it would be too expensive, and they weren't going to pay my way. So I had to stay at Notre Dame. So what I did was, Max Brown was getting married after graduation. So Larry, who had come out to my graduation, and I went to Max Brown's wedding, where I was in the wedding party. And then Max Brown went off on his honeymoon, and we came back to Notre Dame, and I played with Larry, who really was not a player, but he bounced balls to me. We tried to get me ready, but I really didn't get ready very much, and I didn't play very well. I lost the second round, but I did play very well in the doubles, and we got to Don Ralph and I got to the quarterfinals of the doubles. Max Brown, though, beat Ron Holberg, who was a very good player, got to the semifinals of the singles, and with Bill Heinbecker, who was a player that I always beat easily. Admittedly, he was better in doubles than singles, much better, but I don't think he was better than I was. And yet he and Max Brown got to the finals of doubles.
Wow.
So it was just amazing. And we tied for the NCAA championships with Tulane, who had Holmberg and Henry, but all the teams had like one player who scored a lot of points. Whitney Reed won the tournament, but nobody else from his school scored points. Donald Dell got to the semis, the finals, but nobody else, or not enough people scored. So we ended up tying for first place in the NCAA. Now, probably one of the reasons, although I could make an argument, it wouldn't be a good argument, that we would have won anyway. We would have tied for first place anyway. But it just happened that both UCLA and SC, where all the good players went, were ineligible to play in the postseason games because of football violations.
Whoa.
So they wouldn't let the tennis players play in the NCAA.
Wow.
So it was a wide open thing,
Huh.
and that's why we got that.
Huh.
And that really was the end of my tennis career.
Well, hold on.
I played in a
Now,
few tournaments with Gordon and things like
when,
that. but
was
when
that the one when you came back from the NCAA where the coach was
Yeah.
mad at you or something, and
The
Max
coach-
Brown stood up for you?
Well, that's a long story.
Yeah, we got it.
We in our senior year during Easter, we couldn't play, and it was raining. The only tennis we ever got, snowing. The only tennis we got to play was on the basketball court when they weren't practicing. We could put up these tapes and play on this hardwood floor. It was nothing like playing. But we went during Easter vacation. We went to Mexico. I was not very careful in Mexico, and I got turista, and I was very sick. I was just lying in bed for days. Nobody ever came to see me, which was okay. There was nothing anybody could do for me. Finally, I got well, and I told the coach, I'm well, I can play again. And he said, well, you can't play until I have a doctor see you. And I said, well, I'm well now. I don't need a doctor. He said, well, I have to have you checked before you can play. So he did. I went in to see the doctor. And the doctor said, what is the matter? And I said, I had the turista, and now I am well. And then he called in Mr. Fallon, and he said, he had the turista, and now he is well. And then I went back and played. Well, a few weeks later, they were deciding who was going to pay for what on the trip, because the school wasn't paying everything. So the coach came to my doctor's bill, and he said, Ronnie, you're going to have to pay your doctor's bill. And I started arguing against it, that I didn't want it. And the coach said, well, you'd have a hard, and I'm not sure exactly what he meant by this. He said, you'd have a hard time proving that your whole sickness wasn't just an extended hangover. Now, I don't know. Maybe he meant that the only reason it wasn't classified as extended hangover was because the doctor confirmed that I didn't, or I don't know. But anyway, Max Brown, whom everybody was always scared, he had this personality that scared you. He stood up from the table and banged his fist down like this and said, Coach, I think that's the dirtiest thing I've ever heard anyone say. Now, nobody said anything for what seemed like 10 minutes, but I mean, it was probably like 10 seconds. We went on to something else, and we never came back to that. There was never any mention made of it again until in the NCAA, I finally lost, and we didn't have a manager at the time because nobody could get along with the coach. And so when I lost, the coach told me, we can't afford to keep you here any longer. You have to go, you have to get out or pay for your room yourself. And I think he was happy he didn't have, this was his revenge. So I dumped we had no manager, I dumped all my clothes in his room.
The coach's room? Or?
Yeah, there was no place to put it. I didn't know where to put it because I was leaving. And I had, uniforms, stuff. I dumped it all in his room and left. Well, I never found out that we'd won the NCAA. I didn't have a clue that we would. Till a few weeks later, he sent me this letter. And the gist of the letter was, you think you're going to get something for winning the NCAA. You're not getting anything until we get the clothes back that you stole. Well, I was very mad, and I wrote a letter I didn't write him back. I can't remember whether I wrote the president or vice president of the university that I didn't care about him or what he thought or any trophy they're going to give me, but I didn't steal their things. And they can do whatever they want. This is the type of person they have as coach. And that was sort of the end of my relationship with the school.
Wow.
I was very upset by that.
Yeah.
Luckily, I threw the letter away because I probably would have been more upset if I'd looked at it again. And then I played tennis, just socially after that. And I played a few tournaments with Gordon and things, but everybody got better, and I didn't play that well. But I enjoyed it more. I mean, Dwight would always beat me. In fact, I'll tell a story about Dwight. We played at the club all the time, at the Riviera Country Club. And one time I split sets with him. And then later I went up to the clubhouse and somebody said, "Oh, I heard you beat Dwight. That's very good." And I said, "No, I didn't beat him. We split sets. Who told you I beat him?" And he said, "Well, he told me that." And so I went to Dwight. I said, "Dwight, we split sets. Why did you tell old John, or whatever his name is, that I beat you?" And he said, "Well, I considered it a loss." So that's about the stature of my tennis. But I've kept up, and luckily I've played with a lot of these players. Incidentally, I didn't say that nationally when I was 18, I went back to the Nationals, and I lost to Art Andrews, who was the player from Iowa, which was the only team that beat us when we were juniors, and he was the one who won the juniors, national juniors, when I was 18. When I went back to the Nationals, I had to play him already in the second round. I ended up getting ranked, I think 21st in the nation, and 17th in doubles with Alan Roberts, who later won the juniors and also had won the boys before. And these people I sort of stayed in touch with. Alan Roberts I just played with the other day. I played with him a lot. He was a friend. And Gordon Davis I played with. Didn't say much about Gordon. Gordon was probably the person that was most influential in my tennis, and we played all the time, and we played doubles together and had our own strategies and ways we'd win.
What age were you playing doubles with him? Because he's a couple of years older.
Yeah, well, we'd play in the older division, of course.
So you didn't play in the 18 and unders?
We played in the 18 and unders with
when
him,
you were 15 and he's 17?
And actually, one of my best wins I ever had was in doubles with Gordon in the Santa Monica Open in the men's. We played, you wouldn't have heard of them, but for 1 year, a guy called Noel Brown and another guy called Don Kirbo. They were beating everybody in Southern California, and they actually were put on the Davis Cup team, which played somebody in South America. They didn't play, but they went down with as members of the team. So they were really good players, and we beat them in the Santa Monica doubles tournament.
Wow. How old were you?
I don't know how old we were, but we must have been in our mid-20s.
Wow. But you also played with Gordon in the juniors.
I played with Gordon.
You didn't keep playing with Tommy?
We had some famous losses. No, Tommy and I don't think we ever played after we were 15. Tommy and I, we'd both always go for the same, but ball would come down the middle, and we'd either both let it go or both go for it.
Because you're both left-handed.
We cracked it. No, he's not left-handed.
Tommy's not. Oh, I'm thinking of Dwight is left-handed.
Dwight is left-handed. We'd crack rackets always.
Crack rackets.
Yeah, we did. We'd either crack rackets or let the ball go. For some reason, we were not the epitome of teamwork.
But you and Gordon clicked very well, huh?
Gordon and I played, and then probably I blame Gordon for my being not a really good doubles player, because Gordon volleyed so well and was so fast on his volleys and his overhead. He took all the overheads. And I would be up at net ready to hit a volley, and he would jump in front of me and put it away because he volleyed so well. And probably because of that, I didn't play the way I otherwise might have. That's why I have an excuse for almost everything. That's not a very good one.
We have to talk about the Bics. Wasn't there also a match where everyone was waiting for you? Was that in the CIF or something like that?
Oh, that was, yeah. Well, the CIF.
Let me make sure this is going before you hit that. Hold on. Keep that thought. That's still going. Okay, good.
High school tennis was something you wanted to avoid. Because you'd have to play these players that weren't very good at all. But it was a big thing for the high schools, and so we played in the CIF. We never did well as a team, but they had an individual tournament that I played in when I was a senior.
Was there anyone else good at Loyola on your team?
No, there was not anybody else good from Loyola. There was nobody good in the tournament.
In the whole thing?
Actually, there were some. That's not true. There were good players from San Diego, too. The guy beat in the finals was good. Now, I've told you that I won. Well. But, the suspense is off. But They played the whole tournament in one day, and the way you rested was during your match.
The whole tournament one
Yeah,
day.
you played one set matches first, and the 8-game pro set. Then the finals was 2 out of 3, and I played this guy, I forgot his name, Ingram or something, in the finals. He was good.
There must have been like 8 sets in one day or something.
But, oh yeah, but the rest of the team that drove down, it was in Long Beach, or Lakewood, which was even farther, and they all lost, and they wanted to go home, so they arranged that I would get a ride home with the Santa Monica team, and they agreed to take me home, but it went on and on, the tournament, and it got dark, and I was losing in the semifinals, and they were my friends from Santa Monica, and they were good friends. They wanted to go home first, so they were rooting against
for you to
me.
lose.
And I came back and won the semifinals, and I played the finals, which was 2 out of 3, and I was losing that one too, and they were rooting against me. I finally came back and won it. It was like 7 or 7:30 before we started home, and I was for some reason I was really mad. I won. But I was mad that nobody from my team was there, and I didn't tell anybody that I won. So the next day at school, it was like at fourth period, and they had this loudspeaker where they announced things from the day. And my coach asked me, "How did you do?" And I said, "Oh, I won." He said, "What? You're kidding?" I said, "No, I won." He said, "You're kidding." He didn't believe me, and he called the tournament or something, confirmed that I won, and then he said it over the microphone. When they have the microphone where they tell you all the things that are happening in school. They said, and Ron Sternberg won the CIF, which was a big thing for people in the CIF. Unbeknownst to most of the people, it was a very weak year for the CIF.
You won it. Did you win it twice?
No, I only won it once. If you look, I have 2 medals because it was so dark, they gave me the wrong medal first, and it was like for winning the C's or something.
Wow.
And then they finally gave me the right medal.
But that was when you were 17
I was 18,
or something?
Yeah, I was 18. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. There was something that you won twice. Was it the Pacific Southwest you won twice? Or
I won the Pacific Southwest twice. I won the Southern Cal.
That was the 18 and under Pacific Southwest?
15.
Or the 15?
15, 13 and the 15.
Wow.
And I won doubles. And no, the Southern Cal I only won once because I lost to Cranston in the 13s.
Okay. I have some more stories.
What?
I have some more things that will trigger more stories.
Okay.
Oh, wait.
Tennis?
Let me make sure it's still going.
Please.
Oh, do you want to stop?
Well, I mean, the kids want to play
Yeah.
tennis, and it's 11:30.
Okay.
You guys started around 9:30. So.